Alongside teachings about the oneness of God, the unity of all the world's religions, and the equality of man and woman and all the world's races of people, is a teaching in the Baha'i faith that calls for a spiritual solution to the economic problems of the world. Are we in the midst of a spiritual recession? Today on The Light of Unity. Welcome to the Light of Unity. I'm Nwandi Lawson. I don't have to tell you that the newscasts and the headlines are bombarding us with images of global economic collapse. We are seeing the world's leaders, as well as those who are championing business, scrambling to try to find a way to just prop up this failing system. Well, our guests today say that it's going to take more than just a little bit of creative accounting or legislative packages to fix this financial crisis. I'm joined today by Dr. Kambiz Khadem. He is a partner with the Oric Corporation, and I'm also joined by Jonathan Hosseini. He's the founder of Canary Neighborhood Food Systems. We want to find out a little bit more about what each of you is doing in business, but before we begin with that, let's just start with just where is the state of the world's economy right now? How would you characterize what's going on all around us? Jonathan, you want to start?
Yeah, thank you, Nwandi. What's happening in the world today, from my perspective, there are very exciting currents flowing. You've got, at the one instance, the current of just very exciting integration of the world, where a child in China can talk live to a child in a classroom in Roswell, Georgia, and a corn shipment from the Midwest feeds children in Africa. It's one small world. The same time as that's happening, you've got, with that, the flow of capital and the systems trying to keep up with that are unleashing all manner of problems as capital systems seem to be running amok with a sort of unbridled capitalism, resulting in disparities of rich and poor, and that creating social tensions around the world. Layer on top of that various narratives motivated sometimes by political divides that either exploit some of the differences, whether it's in skin color or national titles, or even within countries between parties. And you get this agonizing, as you say, bombardment of arguments about what is happening. Layer on top of that massive cultural changes that are sweeping the corners of the world as everyone's culture is mingling with everyone else's culture, and questions of whether Rolls Royces are what should be parked in every driveway, or whether people should live in a farm economy. There's turmoil of varying different currents, and it's disquieting. It is.
And yet, Kambiz, Jonathan characterized that as exciting. What would you say? I mean, I certainly don't hear news broadcasts telling me that this is an exciting situation on the horizon. What do you say?
Well, it depends on how you look at it. I think it's exciting in a sense that you can see the changes around, not only in your own community, thanks to internet, anything happen, any corner of the world, the next moment we can get a tweet, or you can get an email, or they're going to be on Facebook, or at minimum they're going to be on a TV. So there is no sense of, hiding anywhere anymore. Like 50, 60, 70 years ago when something happened, it took months if it even possible. During the Cold War, both sides, they try to hide their kind of down points, and they try to glorify their propaganda. And fortunately, it's gone. We can now see that different system, how they kind of stand up to people free will. And we saw that in old Soviet system, it didn't work out because it ignored that very foundation of a fundamental aspect of the human being, which is kind of personal freedom. And we see the capitalist system, they're going to challenge. They have same challenge, and although they are in different level, okay, I'm not saying they're the same, but they are not addressing all the human needs. And nowadays, you see people that they have enlightenment and they demand for it. And you know, we're not going to get to the political side of it, but you can see that people say, why this system doesn't work for me? Okay, why there's that much disparity between the wages, you know, from the poor to the richest, and especially in a country like United States. And I think it's at minimum is interesting, and also it would be interesting to see that, you know, what system people collectively will adopt or they come up with. And definitely it's not going to be socialism, and it's not definitely not going to be capitalism. And we'll see, you know, what blend of those and with what other factors or ideas create the next generation of the financial or economic system for us.
Interesting. You know, turning to the Baha'i writings, they say that if this problem is not solved lovingly, it will result in war. Perfect communism and equality are an impossibility because they would upset the affairs and the order of the world. But there is a fair method which will not leave the poor in such need, nor the rich in such wealth. The poor and rich, according to their degrees, can live happily with ease and tranquility. Now, both of you have, in addition to running businesses, you've both studied at some of the top business schools in the country. Is this a reality? I mean, what are we speaking to then, that there is a fair method that will not leave the poor in need nor the rich in such wealth?
Well, I think if we look at any conflicts, you know, even social or economical conflicts, we see two extreme on both ends. And you see the neglect that, you know, the people that have a power, they have toward the people that they don't have power. And I think when you bring that factor of the human factor and love factor, and according to Baha'i writing, it should be the love of God. You know, anything you do as a human being and ultimately as a corporation, you should think what's the end result or what's the end benefit for the human being. That basically can translate to the consumers, can translate to general public, to workers, and so on and so forth. And if you look at everything in that lens, you know, I doubt anybody can argue, say, hey, I need to have $10 trillion in my account, so I'd be happy, while I can see my workers and people in my society, they go home hungry, or they have to struggle for the basic necessities, you know. And I think that is missing, and not considering for what's good for humans and what's good for society, from the capitalist system. Okay, it's just, we are not just numbers. You know, we at the community level. You know, if we go to the bank, you know, why we don't go to the bigger banks? They say because we are just a number. Okay, it's the exact same problem with the big corporation. We are just a number. And but as Jonathan says, you can see the things that changing, and I think we get to the point that, you know, it becomes part of our social responsibility and social awareness that, you know, by just introducing one product, okay, how this product can help society or humans, you know, at large. I think that's what's missing, honestly.
So Kambiz spoke to the love of God as being like the principal factor that should guide each action. However, when you were in business school, I mean, is this something that was being taught? And do you find that people, you know, your colleagues in the business world are aware of this?
It's interesting. When I was in business school, it was literally right in the middle of the Enron scandal. And very interestingly, right as it was winding down in terms of what exactly had transpired, all the business schools, including the Guzweta Business School, were scrambling to adopt ethics as one of the characteristics of what the curriculum in the schools. So it wasn't there, and it seems like it's creeping in. Each time there's a crisis, it seems that the crisis results in challenges to sort of the human spirit to rise to that crisis and search and ask the questions that are needed. And so I think, encouragingly, ethics and the beginnings of sort of social considerations in business are increasingly becoming a part of business schools. I think the Guzweta Business School now has quite an active social enterprise program. And those are, I think, are very encouraging signs, and you see that popping up at top business schools all around the world, actually.
That's very interesting. You know, Kambiz, you were speaking to the role of the worker and the fact that we want to be more than numbers, whether we're workers, whether we're customers or whatnot. And I wanted to share, again, from the Baha'i writings, from the Abdul Baha, who's the son of the prophet, founder of the Baha'i faith, who says, "It is then clear and evident that the repartition of excessive fortunes amongst a small number of individuals, while the masses are in misery, is an inequity and an injustice. In the same way, absolute equality would be an obstacle to life, to welfare, to order, and to the peace of humanity. In such a question, a just medium is preferable. It lies in the capitalists being moderate in the acquisition of their profits and in their having a consideration for the welfare of the poor and needy. That is to say, the workmen and artisans receive a fixed and established daily wage and have a share in the general profits of the company." Now, that, of course, is not a model that we see today, but do you see some indications? You know, Jonathan has spoken to some of these things kind of creeping their way into business. Do you see any indication that that's making a change in terms of workers?
Of course. If you look at it, again, we have a system here that it needs a lot of changes, a lot of modification. And there's some companies that they are profit-sharing companies. You know, you have the 401k that you contribute, and the company contributes something on top of that, and then you own portion of the company. Okay, I'm sure that there are a lot of companies that are like that. I think that's a very good first step. And I guess what needs to happen is that everything needs to grow kind of as an organic movement in a society. So we need to modify some of our laws. So they are reflecting the needs of today's economic situation and the corporate situation. And while we're doing that, there are some changes need to happen in the corporate system, you know. And according to the same writing that you just cited from, there's some part of it is just suggestion. Is that if the company has 10-part share, you know, public share, 2 parts should go to the should be available and basically available directly to the worker of that company. You know, and they receive their fixed wages, you know, whatever is fair.
Right.
That basically, that's another question. Okay, what is fair wage system? Okay,
Right.
and top of that, they receive some compensation based on the profit, extra profit that the company makes. You know, this helped the workers. They say, okay, so why should I try? Why should I try harder? Because now they have a skin in the game. Okay, and also it shows that they are basically participating in the well-being of the company and ultimately well-being of the society. Because let's say if they are part owner of the company, they don't just strike just because somebody told them, you know, it's just some sort of propaganda. They think twice.
Right.
And they're helping, just kind of helping hand in hand with the management and the owner of the company. And I think that's where the solution is. You know, we have to come up with a system which is fair for the people who basically risk, you know, to create a business, risk managing the business. And also people who helping to running that business, they get some share and some profit back from the from operation of that business. And if we can expand that globally, I think we can just close the gap much faster than having a system that is, okay, we divide the company by 100 pieces and we divide it by between 100 people and everybody get a share. So that it brings that chaos that we have in a socialist system. Or we say, okay, one person own the whole thing and give minimum wages to everybody, and then he collect all the benefits that he probably ultimately doesn't need, you know.
So there's the benefit. Did you want to add to
Yeah,
that?
I just wanted to comment. If you listen to the last part of that quotation from Abdul Baha, it was that was right in the early 1900s when he wrote that. And you look at that, the spiritual meaning of that, and he was talking within the beginning of a very industrial and exciting century that was about to unfold there. And those ideas of sharing of on the one hand, commerce and capital reaping benefits, but that being distributed equitably are millennia, that idea is shared. I just wanted to, in preparing here, I was just looking through some Bible verses. And in Leviticus chapter 23, verse 22. If it's okay, I'll just read
please.
directly from there. And when ye reap the harvest of your land, think profit from capital, thou shalt not make clean riddance of the corners of thy field when thou reapest, neither shalt thou gather any gleaning of thy harvest. Thou shalt leave them unto the poor and to the stranger. I am the Lord your God. So the idea of profit sharing, of distribution, of not raking in every single last bit of it and saying, hey, that's the free market, that is an age-old human idea. And I just wanted to throw out there, maybe it's something you're going to touch on there, is that in the current discourse, there seems to be a confusion and a muddying of the waters between the idea of capitalism and free enterprise. And when I think free enterprise, I think the power of the human spirit, the power to take a risk and build something great and cause advancement of mankind. Capitalism, in a true sense of the word, is that rule of the capital. And those two words have been muddied and the lines blurred between them to suggest that, okay, let's just let the capital grow and, hey, every person for themselves. But allow free enterprise into the picture, and not just the rule of capital, but the opportunity for truly free movement of people's endeavors at all levels. And then you really will get a much freer flowing economy. And for that to happen, you need to shift the focus in free enterprise economies like the United States from the capital and the money to the human capital and the human spirit and the freedom of movement of the human spirit, the freedom of collection and activity of the human spirit. So I think we need to shift away from referring to our nation as a capitalist nation to referring to our nation as a free and proud and enterprising nation.
That's fascinating. Well, you know, the people obviously taking to the streets now. We have the Occupy movements going on across the country. You spoke a little bit about the role that there might play for governments to take a role in some of this. And I'm wondering, what are you seeing as far as what the people who are going to the streets and the call that they're making? What could be the impact of kind of the people's voice on this whole discussion?
Well, first of all, I don't know much about, what's the movement about, honestly. And I'm sure, like any other demonstrations, there are a different group of people with different agenda, with different background and intention that are out there. So I refrain from making comments about something I don't know. But what I know is this, we living in a free society, that if there is any injustice thing or unjust action, or people feel that's unjust, they have freedom to express their anger, their disappointment, and so on and so forth. I think if that's the purpose, to show that they are basically fed up with the playing a rat race, if you will, that's basically, it's fair. Okay, but demonstrating is one thing, but what we're going to do to change from us. We have to change ourselves and change our immediate family and immediate, community and city and country and so on and so forth. Okay, we cannot just go outside and demonstrate and just, occupy something just because it's cool. I'm hanging around with my friends. I'm not saying they're doing that, but we have to have a purpose. Okay? We should identify, like any other problem. This is the problem. Okay, this is what needs to be fixed, and this is how it should be. Okay, with solid proposal, okay? And we can start from our local government. Again, you should have a plan, and you should have a precise understanding of what needs to be changed, okay? And in that respect, I guess we should have that. And we are fortunate enough to live in a country that we can freely express that. In many countries, if you even start complaining, you may end up not coming home for a long time or at all.
That's true. That's very
so. Again, as I said, it's just we get to the point that people are more knowledgeable, and they're exposed to more of what's going on around them, and they are demanding what is right in their mind. Okay, and I think that's one one of the necessities of the future society. It's just everybody partake in the well-being of society, and everybody feel responsible. That's all I can say about that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, again, turning back to the Baha'i writings again, Abdul Baha, as we've been mentioning, he said that one of the principal cause of these difficulties lies in the laws of the present civilization, for they lead to a small number of individuals accumulating incomparable fortunes beyond their needs, whilst the greater number remains destitute, stripped, and in the greatest misery. This is contrary to justice, to humanity, to equity. It is the height of inequity, the opposite of what causes divine satisfaction. So I know among some of those who are speaking out, they would like to see some changes in the laws. I don't know if there's a real focus on what that would look like, though. Have you heard anything that might speak to what some of these changes could be?
I mean, I think one of the interesting characteristics of the Occupy movement and that demand for equity is, and I don't mean this as a criticism, but is the critique that they haven't articulated exactly what they want. And maybe the very fact that they haven't articulated exactly what they want is the point, that there is a general deep unrest and confusion. Maybe that is in fact the point there, that something's wrong. We don't have this specific political demand, that specific political demand, this particular partisan angle or that particular partisan angle, but something has to give, something fundamental. And I think similar to, just as I mentioned earlier, it's raising to a crisis level the attention to this disparity.